Right, let's go to David Hundeyin. He's a visiting academic at the University of Cambridge's Centre of African Studies. He joins us from London now. Professor, thank you for your time. Firstly, these young voters make up an astounding number of people eligible to vote. I'm curious to get your perspective on which of the candidates have looked at this group of people and have targeted them enough to get their support.
So clearly, that would be Peter Obi. It's impossible to discuss Peter Obi's candidacy without linking it to the popular EndSARS protest movement in 2020, which brought together young Nigerians who were angry with police brutality across religious and ethnic lines, possibly for the first time, definitely in my lifetime. So that movement has contributed in no small way to the growth of the Peter Obi phenomenon, taking him from basically an outside contender, running under the Labour Party, which, as you mentioned earlier, has no control of any of the political apparatus, mainstream political apparatus in Nigeria, to becoming more or less the popular frontrunner, even in the absence of the so-called political structure. So Peter Obi is definitely the candidate who, whether by strategy or by providence or by luck, has come to embody basically what the Nigerian youth voting population seems to be looking for in this cycle.
Interesting. And elaborate on that. What are young Nigerians looking for from a leader exactly?
It's the same basic issues. For the past 8 years, Nigeria has had leadership which has basically been absentia leadership. The current president at one point spent close to 8 months seeking medical treatment in London while the country sort of ran on autopilot in his absence. There has been crushing inflation, as you mentioned in your report. The naira, that's Nigeria's currency, has suffered some of the world's worst devaluation, going from about 250 naira to a dollar in 2015 to about 750 naira to a dollar now, currently as we speak. The unemployment indices have nearly doubled in that time as well. There has been an upsurge in insecurity and violence across much of the country. As at when Buhari came into office, it was pretty much the Northwest and the Northeast that had security challenges. Now, this has spread to the North Central, the Southeast, and even parts of the Southwest as well, which used to be relatively peaceful. So what young Nigerians are looking for is somebody who has a stated commitment to fight the insecurity problem, and then perhaps most importantly of all, someone who knows how to grow an economy, right? Somebody who knows how to make it such that young Nigerians, ordinary people, have more money in their pockets, and then there is less need to have to flee the country and become economic refugees, which has become a thing over the past 8 years.
Yeah, Peter Obi has been tweeting a lot of late, talking about his willingness to build agricultural dams, support every state in Nigeria to plant 10 million economic trees. He's also talked about farmers that must return to their farms to feed Nigeria. Can he provide this new, secured, united and prosperous Nigeria as he claims he can, you think?
So there has to be a coming together of several factors. Certainly, he seems to be the candidate that has offered the closest thing that exists to some sort of a workable plan for how to actually go about achieving these promises. But obviously, it goes beyond just one man, even a man who has the powers of the Nigerian presidency. There has to be some level of political cooperation, which is why there has been a campaign which has plugged into his own presidential campaign. There's been a campaign for voters going to the polls to not just vote the Labour Party at the presidential level, but to also get them in at the legislative and state levels as well, which would make the process of governance a bit easier for him, because it's as we know, in post-colonial African states, it's never really just down to one man. And if one man makes the mistake of trying to impose his will, on an entire country using just sheer force of will and personality, that quickly tends to degenerate into a dictatorship, which isn't what anybody wants. So fortunately, Peter Obi seems to have, at least based on his political antecedents, seems to be the exact kind of person who knows how to be a political deal maker, and at the same time also knows how to hold his own. So we have to wait and see. But I would say, to those who have, who have some experience of his governance experience and his antecedents, there is perhaps some reason, at least some reason, to be cautiously optimistic.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, Professor David Hundeyin, sorry for massacring your name there. David Hundeyin of the University of Cambridge's Centre of African Studies in London. Thank you so much for your time.